Today, we're diving into the story of a true miracle plant from the ancient world. I mean, this thing was a nearly perfect form of birth control, and it was so popular that people literally ate it until it was gone. Forever. This is the incredible story of Silphium, what's now known as the lost contraceptive of Rome.
So let's just start with that question, right? What if there was a perfect birth control plant and we just ate it all? It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi novel, doesn't it? But the craziest part is that all the evidence we have points to this being a true story. A story about a miracle plant that's just lost to time.
All right, so first up, let's get to know the star of our show. We're talking about a plant that was so incredibly revered in the ancient Mediterranean that it became, well, the stuff of legend.
Okay, so this wasn't just some common weed. It was a plant called Silphium. And what made it so special? Well, for starters, it was unbelievably rare. I mean, it would only grow wild on this one tiny 125-mile strip of land in what is now Libya. That's it. People tried to grow it everywhere else, and it just wouldn't take. And right there, that exclusivity, that's our first big clue about just how valuable this thing was about to become. And it wasn't just rare, it became a total economic powerhouse. So you gotta ask, right? What was it about this one plant that made it one of the most valuable things in the entire ancient world?
Well, it was kind of the perfect storm, really. You had the Greeks and the Romans absolutely obsessed with it. It was used for all sorts of medical problems, like a one-plant pharmacy. And of course, you had that whole mystery factor. It only grew in that one spot, and nobody could figure out how to farm it. But the biggest tell? The Romans literally stamped its heart-shaped seed on their money. Think about that. When you put a plant on your coins, that tells you everything you need to know.
And I'm not exaggerating here. It was literally worth more than its weight in silver. We have records from guys like Pliny the Elder that show a pound of Silphium cost more than a pound of actual silver. It was just this incredible thing. A luxury good, a must-have medicine, a strategic resource, all in one plant. And this chart right here, it just drives the point home, doesn't it? Look at that comparison. When a wild plant that you can't even farm is worth more than a precious metal, you just know there's got to be a really, really good reason for that level of demand. So what was that reason? I mean, yeah, people used it for coughs, they used it as a fancy seasoning, but the ancient texts keep pointing to one specific use. The main reason, the one thing that made this plant absolutely indispensable. And here it is. This is the big reveal. According to sources like Pliny, Silphium's most sought-after power was as a highly effective contraceptive. It was, for all intents and purposes, the ancient world's best form of birth control. And in an age where there were hardly any reliable options for family planning, well, that wasn't just useful. That was a game changer. That was the secret to its insane value. So you can probably imagine what happened next. The demand for this thing just exploded. It was insatiable. Everyone, all across the Greek and Roman world, wanted to get their hands on it. But remember, it only grew on that one tiny patch of land, and you couldn't farm it. So what happens when you have insane, unstoppable demand for something that has a very, very limited supply? Yeah, we all know how this story goes. And that brings us to the really tragic part of the story. This incredible plant, this miracle of nature, was literally loved to death. It was harvested right into extinction, completely disappearing from the face of the earth. And you can see how it happened right here on this timeline. I mean, it's just a grim, predictable path. For centuries, it was this booming business. But then, as the Roman Empire got bigger and bigger, so did the demand. The price shot through the roof, which just made people harvest it even more frantically. And just like that, within a few hundred years, it went from abundant to almost impossible to find. And this one sentence from Pliny the Elder is basically the plant's tombstone. It says the very last stalk ever found was sent as a curiosity to the Emperor Nero. I mean, think about that. It makes the whole idea of extinction so real, so specific. The last one on Earth wasn't saved, it wasn't studied, it was given as a quirky little gift to the emperor. And after that, poof, gone forever. So the plant was gone. But its disappearance wasn't just a sad story for botanists. No, it created a huge void, one with really deep social consequences that would last for thousands of years. Because when Silphium disappeared, so did a uniquely effective and reliable tool for reproductive freedom.
For a woman in the ancient world, this plant offered a level of control that was just gone. That knowledge, that autonomy, it basically vanished from the Western world for a very, very long time. It was like hitting a reset button, but in the wrong direction. A huge step backward.
And this number really puts it all into perspective. 2,000. That's how many years it took for Western science to come up with another tool for reproductive freedom that was even close to as effective as what the Romans had and lost. Just let that sink in. A 2,000-year gap.
So in the end, the story of Silphium isn't just about the past. It leaves us with this really chilling question for today. How many other miracle plants have we already lost? Plants that might have held the solution to a modern disease or some other problem we're facing right now. It just makes you wonder what other knowledge, what other incredible secrets from the natural world have been lost to history forever, simply because we didn't realize what we had until it was gone.